Hey up guys, what's going on and welcome back to York City for something a little bit different today. I thought after the results of last episode, which if you haven't watched, go watch that right now. There will be spoilers I talk about very shortly. With the results of the last episode, where of course we did get promoted to the Premier League, I thought this was a good chance to just take a breath and reminisce over the last 7 seasons and just bring you up to speed of the story so far. There's a lot of new people playing Football Manager. There's a lot of free time for people in general, whether they're new to Football Manager or not. With that in mind, if people are coming across this series now at episode 90, it's a little bit daunting for those people to have to go through 89 episodes to understand where we are right now, understand the references and what have you. So this is a chance for me to get these people up to speed, and for those people who have followed me throughout all 7 seasons and all 90 episodes so far, firstly, thank you, and secondly, just reminisce with me. Grab a cup of tea, sit down, relax, enjoy this journey as we look back over 7 years worth of Football Manager simulations. And for those people who have followed me all this time, I'll also show that player that I teased at the end of the episode that is my first signing for Premier League, the free player at the end of the year. So all that to come. But firstly, here we go back to the summer of 2019. So summer 2019, we took on the York job back in Vanarama National North. Or Vanarama North, as is abbreviated here. I said to York because A, proximity to the club in general. I do live in Yorkshire. B, they've had a bit of misfortune of late in terms of their decline through the league. So I thought it was a good chance and a good team to pick back up again. Little did I realise they were already favourites before I took them on. And I only made the team better. So the first year went pretty much as you would expect. A couple of losses at the start of the season. And then, well... that happened. We did not lose between November the 16th and the end of the season. And that includes the FA Trophy, of course. Well, it wasn't uneventful, that's for certain. Sutton, Willstone, yeah, that was fine. Notts County was when it got interesting, of course, with a 2-2 draw away, and then the replay. Shields, I need my goalie to be the Shield right now. I need you to protect that goal. I need you to fill it. I need you to dive. I need you to do whatever you need to do to keep this ball out of that net. And he's done it. Oh my God, how did we turn that around in penalties? I am speechless. I am genuinely speechless. And then the scenes did not stop going with the 2-legged semi-final against Fylde, and then the final, of course, against Ebbsfleet. James steps up and misses entirely. We have won the FA Trophy. There we are. Look, there we are. The FA Cup didn't go too badly either, getting through to the FA Cup first round proper. And the start of really our general overachievement in the FA Cup every single year. This first year is where we actually made our acquaintances with few of our favourite players. Boomer and Romano in the centre of that defence. Now, 2 players who saw us through those early years. Juanito Lopez was actually signing in that first year. And then, of course, the main man himself, Callum Nassell, literally the first player to appear on my scout page. Right there in my inbox, first man's face, ready to scout, ready to sign as a star player in that first year, and still in the team today. 7 years on, Callum Nassell. What a man. I'm highlighting him now, of course. A decent player for most Sky Bet League One sides, according to my coaches. Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Never below a 7, any year. Spoilers, of course, for the progression here, but I can't just talk about Callum Nassell without actually going in depth about him straight away. Vanarama North, 7.25. I always felt at this point, these first 2 years, I actually thought he didn't play all particularly well. We nearly sold him when we got promoted to League 2. There was a moment where we didn't actually accept a bid and then it fell through for whatever reason, and I never really saw why it fell through, and thank God it did. Actually, those first 2 years, I very much underestimated his importance. 12 goals, 13 goals those first 2 years, and whilst the goals dried up, sort of, the assists started coming, the creativity started coming. 7.23 in the first year of League 2, 7.6 in the second year of League 2, 7.68 in League 1, and then he carried it into the Championship. Above and beyond, 46 appearances in the first year in the Championship, 4 goals, 8 assists, 6 player of the matches, 7.37. One's our best player that year, I do believe. And whilst he took a bit of a back step this year, 19 appearances, only the 1 assist, only the 1 player of the match, 7.13 was his average. He had 12 starts, 14 in total. He was, of course, usurped by Hal Carlos in his starting role that particular year, and now we're going to the Premier League. I dare say we may see the last of him in a sort of very semi-regular capacity. First year was an absolute nailed-on promotion, pretty much. We were odds-on favourites for that title. To get that one, we were second favourites in the Vanarama, only behind Morecambe, who had just been relegated from League 2. So, we had built a very good squad in that first year, and we only strengthened it in the second year. And our good form, our unbeaten form from the end of the Vanarama North campaign carried straight through into the Vanarama. First game against that relegated Morecambe, 0-0 away from home. Bit dull, but it set us on our way. We did not lose all the way through till Halloween, naturally, where we scored an own goal. It was very fitting, as Fyle got their revenge on us after last year's FA Trophy loss to us. Now, FA Cup, we got through to the second round that year. Again, overperforming, as we do every time. That said, you do have to look at the favourable draws. Blythe in the fourth round qualifying, Hednesford in the first round. And then as soon as we came up against our league opposition, we lost. The FA Trophy, we stumbled on our defence. We absolutely stumbled. We lost to Woking in that. But, most importantly, we won the Vanarama National with automatic promotion, a few more losses, and a few big wins in amongst all that, though, at the same time. And the team for that year actually has shifted already in terms of the formation to what we now play in general. And there's some names in there that are a little bit more familiar. Daniel Williams in that centre midfield, Tommy Block, 42 appearances for him in that particular year. Ethan Walker we had on loan, Cameron Stanley too we brought in fully. In fact, Lopez starring role in that striking position, and at right back, the first appearance of James Clark, and in goal, Ted Smith, who was sensational despite a 6.77 because goalkeepers. 7.07 for a right back over the course of the season, not too bad. 7.03 for Romano in central defence. Is never underestimate the importance of Romano in those first couple of years. But 27 goals for Lopez in 44 appearances. He started firing in the second half of that Vanarama North campaign, and he carried that on into this year. Very similar to what we've seen very recently with Victor Schott, in fact. Second half of his first year with us, does well, and then second year just continues with it. We kept Alex Kempster around. He did all right too. The arrival of Thor and the arrival of the infamous Janelle Bennett, who makes the bench on this, but very much the infamous Janelle Bennett. Football League proper now, and we started it in style. 5-2 against Port Vale at home and 4-1 away to Grimsby, 5-0 at home to Stevenage. We scored 14 goals in our first 3 league matches. No longer clean through. He wasn't super quick, but we got 3 players in the box still. Bennett scored 2 and has proved his entire statistics from last year wrong. That set us on our way to what was, at that point, our most overachieving season. We weren't predicted to do that well. We were predicted around 18th, 16th. It varied over the course of the year, but it was in that lower middle block. We ended up one place outside the playoffs. And that was largely due to going off the rails in September and October. And that first year in League 2 gave us our first match with Burnley. Only 1-0 loss. They were Championship, we were League 2. It was a sign of things to come. And if we look at the best 11 for that season, there's a few more names in there. Richie Smallwood, the main man, of course. Mr. Delegator himself, the man I can always, used to be able to rely on to solve every problem. I've not let you in on that one. That ability has disappeared now. Tavares, a new signing in that one, and Janelle Bennett actually makes the first team in that one. He did end up scoring 9 goals in 31 appearances that year. But a 6.8 average for the year. Lee Towell's first appearance as well on that right-hand side. 36 appearances for him, 5 goals, 6.78. Wasn't his best year either. But you can see the problems at left back starting at this stage. Morgan Boyd, 6.7, 26 appearances. He makes the best 11, which says everything you need to know about left back. Lewis Cancelo was the left back, 32 appearances, 6.8. He doesn't make the first 11 for some reason. But Ted Smith, of course, 47 appearances, 6.81, even better that year. Clark, 7.08, even better that year. Romano, 7.07, marginally better again. Callum Nassell, 7.2. Daniel Williams, 7.23 there. And then the big man that time, 37 goals for Juanito Lopez. He was on fire that first year. The second year in League 2 actually started with a very rough set of friendlies, which we did not fare too well in comparison to every other year, really. But when the league campaign started proper, boy did it start. Unbeaten through to October. Admittedly, 4 draws in a row in that. But we were unbeaten through to the 8th of October against Wimbledon. 2-1. A scoreline which became a bit of a curse. Now, I know we should say that curses aren't a thing in Football Manager, but 4 matches in a row. 2-1. Away or at home, doesn't matter. 2-1 Wimbledon. But that loss to Wimbledon was the only one we had through to December, where Cheltenham got the best of us. January saw Bristol Rovers beat us. And then the back end of the campaign, Wheels came off a little bit, but it was more than enough for us to seal that title as well. But once again, the run in is when things start going wrong a little bit. That year also saw us get to the leasing.com trophy final, where we had a bit of an issue. Now, ignore the fact they didn't mention anyone being on international break on the schedule page there, because guess when they get back? Yeah, it's tomorrow. And of course, swan song that season by losing to Wimbledon 2-1. There was no other way to finish it. And once again, we did also better our FA Cup run in that year, losing to West Ham 3-2. Wasn't a bad game by our standards at all. But that second year of League Two, that was the year of Dan Morgan. 48 appearances with 35 goals to his name. He absolutely took Lopez's space that year. Out of nowhere, he was brought in as a backup to Lopez, and then when Lopez didn't fire at the start of the year, Dan Morgan stepped up and went, right, this is my place. Something he only managed 1 year. So thank you, Dan Morgan, for your services in getting us out of League Two. But after that point, he was out as well. Lee Towell, though, this is when he made his name. 53 games he played that year. 16 goals. 7.44 was his average. Callum Lascelles, again. It was also the year when Callum Lascelles put his name in our glory books. 50 appearances for him, 7 goals. 7.57 was his average rating. And Ted Smith, let's not forget him, of course. 57 appearances. Never really out of that side. 6.81 because goalkeepers. There's also a name there on that bench. A man brought in during the course of the season, Mr. Xiao Nan, or Nan Xiao, because that's probably the way it's meant to be ordered. 23 appearances in the options he got because he was very much in and out of that Chinese team. And League Two does not abide by international breaks. 7.08 for him. A couple other names, of course, in there that we brought in that year. Feistamel, Ebersbach, Richie Dean. That was the first time we saw all of those guys as well. And then also, of course, the biggest name in football, DK, otherwise known as Darren Kingsley Guerre Kasambia. I mean, what a name. All these men stepped up that year and did their job and got us promoted, except for really Genie, who 3 goals and 6.73. That position was a problem. 2023-24 season saw us in League One, and not that far off the top in terms of ratings. I cannot quite remember where we were in our predictions for this year, but it wasn't as far down as one may have expected. And we started that year quite convincingly, eventually, with one of the more ridiculous games in this entire save. 1-0 down at 80 minutes, and then 82nd minute, 90th minute, 93rd minute, 96th minute, 4-1. Morgan can make it 3, he does. I'm going to, from the way that ball travelled in 2D there, I might make the argument that's a Matthews' own goal. But we were brought down to earth quite immediately thanks to Sunderland and Walsall back on track with wins in the league pretty much all the way through to the end of September. Carabao Cup, losing in the second round to Southampton. Admittedly, Southampton. But the Carabao Cup, not our competition. FA Cup, however, once again, one step further. In fact, 2 steps further. FA Cup 5th round. I can't remember if that's 1 or 2 steps now. But FA Cup 5th round, Tottenham, top 6 Tottenham, only being 1-0. Our prowess in the FA Cup is remarkable when you compare it to the Carabao in particular. Didn't fare particularly well in that year's leasing.com trophy, though. We got knocked out in the 3rd round by the Man United under-23s, a team that we actually got past the previous year to get to the final. And what turned out to be our final year in League One because we were promoted straight away, despite that at the end of the season. Our run-ins, not brilliant. Of course, our team for that season saw the emergence of one Hugh King, 33 appearances, 11 goals to his name in that one. This was the year that we had issues in the striking role. No one really stepped up and commanded that position, which was so thankful that everyone else sort of did for us. Taylor Gardner-Hickman had a fantastic start of the season and was hampered by injury quite early on, but 13 goals to his name in that year, 7.31. Only makes the bench because of that massive injury he took. He still managed to make 30 appearances in general, which was pretty good. Xiao Nan, again, 31 appearances, a lot of international duties kept him away from the team. Left back still an issue though. Weistamel did not make the first 11, but Jake Vokins did. Again, he had massive injuries over the course of the year. On loan from Southampton, 7.34. First time we loaned a left back, and it wasn't the last. But it was also the arrival of Edgar. 52 appearances, 8 goals for the defender. Edgar, 7.38. That was something that continued. 55 for Borges, 7.21 for him. Dutra, his arrival too. 54 appearances, 6.79. Goalkeepers. Ousted Ted Smith and did it in style. Had to put aside sentimentality for that one. Genie, despite 21 appearances, made the first 11 in this one. I do not understand that, considering Gardner-Hickman had more appearances and more goals and a better average rating. But still, he made that. He was sold that year. It was also the arrival of Mato Jajala, who only made 21 appearances, but did make the first 11 on this one. Smallwood didn't even make this team this year. Dean and Giugiaro took that position for that season. And Giugiaro's still in our coaching team. He had that much of an impact on me. He stayed for the coaching. A coaching team that Smallwood is now permanently a member of as well. Oh yes, we've got sentimental players in our coaching team. We're that kind of save. Sabara, though, was fantastic on loan. But that's a name to remember. He was vital in getting us promoted from League One. 10 goals, 52 appearances. The sell, though, of course, 7.73. This was the year he went, I'm amazing. And he carried that amazing into the Championship, surprisingly. And speaking of surprising, what a start we had there. 5 wins in a row at the start of our life in the Championship. 4-2 against Hull, beating relegated Watford 2-1 away from home. Brentford was a 5-2 thriller as well, followed by Derby, and then back-to-back losses, which brought us straight down to earth again. And then the form continued the way you would expect for a newly promoted side from the League One to the Championship. Championship is a tough place to go when it's your first year, and that was what we were sort of expecting, was this run here. That's the kind of results we were thought we were going to get. And then 2025 rolled around, and this is the form we got in that year. 2 losses between the 1st of January and 18th of March. But then the run-in began once more, and, well, we fell off a little bit. 3 losses in a row after losing to West Brom in the FA Cup quarter-final, going a stage further once more, ultimately losing in the playoff final. We got to the playoffs final in our first year of the Championship. A feat that, of course, we bettered this year, but it was heartbreak in a way, but relief in another. It was far too soon to be promoted for that. We were still behind League One sides in terms of reputation at the end of this year. Thankfully, we don't have that issue this year. But what a madness those 3 games were. Losing 3-1 to Birmingham, 4-0 to Bristol City, and 4-3 to Millwall. What a game that was. The highlight of that year was this crowning achievement. 6-0 away from home at then Premier League Burnley. First time we'd met them since our FA Cup meeting a few years prior, and boy did we get our revenge. 6-0 Burnley. South, Edgar, Lee Tao, Jesus Alonso and Ebersbach on that score sheet. What a performance that was. Squires with an opportunity to make this 6. Ebersbach does make it 6. What is happening? On our team for that year, obviously a lot more names that we recognise now because it's only 1 year behind. Dutra, who took an injury, of course, 42 appearances, basically 6.8. Girona stepped in for 12 games and he got a 6.8 as well. With the survival of the players like Velasquez, Ben Squires, Stephen Burrows, of course, played a few. Victor Schott's first loan spell, 17 goals, all scored after January. The arrival of Raul Madeira again, who's, whilst inconsistent, 6.9 for the season, 12 goals in 48 appearances. Not bad for the winger. Lee Tao, whilst reduced in capacity a little bit, over a 7 average, 6 goals to his name. And then Callum Russell, of course, 7.39, still carrying on fantastic form in a league above what he's rated. 54 appearances, basically never out of that side. And neither was that year's left-back. That year's loanee left-back, Byron Davila. 51 appearances, 2 goals, 7.16. How good was he? And that entire defensive line above a 7. Including Wilson in that defensive role, of course. The year we acquired him as well. All 5 of those players in the sort of the defensive portion of this pitch above a 7 average. And then, of course, we turn our attention to this year just gone. Fresh in our memory, once again, fantastic start, followed by a slightly rocky patch. But we recovered a lot quicker this time round, winning several games in a row and then losing the last match of the month twice in a row. December, though, through to January, unbeaten. Fantastic. Including a 5-1 away at Nottingham Forest, a 6-1 away at Watford. What a ridiculous game that is. Are they having a second red card? What is happening? He's not on a booking at all here. I mean, they're taking a sweet time to walk over to him. He's nearly there. He's got there. Is the referee a tortoise? 6-1 away at Watford, followed by 4-3 against Bournemouth in the Premier League again, taking another scalp. Of course, we took Newcastle's scalp the year before, as well as that Burnley one. Not quite as impressively, but still the same deal. Naturally, it took us extra time to beat League One Bristol Rovers, and then we came up against Liverpool in the quarterfinal. Once again, quarterfinal. Somewhat limited in our ability to play players due to the fact we loaned most of them from Liverpool and had injuries and suspensions, but 2-0 wasn't a bad showing. We didn't actually concede from open play. And then the run-in, the run-in could have gone better. We do have problems with the run-in, and I don't know why. It must be mentality. We must sort that out going forward because we cannot afford that kind of run-in the Premier League. If we're not safe by this point in the Premier League, I will be worrying when it comes to the run-in because we do not perform when it gets to April. Of course, beat Burnley 4-1 in that season as well, away from home again. We do love going to Turf Moor. And of course, if you watched the last episode, this best 11 won't be too surprising to you. But Victor Schott up front, 31 goals last year. superb. Continued his form from the second half of last season. Lee Tao, despite 22 games and being sold to Aston Villa, a club record nearly 19 million, makes the first 11 this one, 7.38 for his season. Part of the reason why he was valued so highly and sold for so much. Ebersbach, shy of a 7, but played a little bit more than he had in previous years. How Carlos only scored the 1 goal, but fantastic player overall, 7.27. Velasquez got his 6 goals despite, again, one fairly hefty injury, 7.35 for him. Wilson Gonçalves, 7.17 over the course of the season again. Unsung, really, Wilson Gonçalves. Despite the fact he does get booked quite a lot and sent off more than I would like. Fantastic servant in the 2 years he's been here so far. Edgar, speaking of, 5 goals for him, 7.23, his best year yet. Xiao Nan's best year yet with a 7.22, 36 appearances. A little bit of an injury towards the end of the year, but that one was fine. And Raul Madeira, 45 appearances, 13 goals, 7.08. Better average rating from the last time we looked at him pretty much, but again, inconsistent. Despite the 7 average rating, Marty Ingle, of course, this year's left back, doesn't make the first team. I don't know why. Christian Best, only 23 appearances, 1 goal, 6.88. 43 appearances for England, 7.04. Don't understand this one, really don't. I think it's because he's regarded as a right back for some inexplicable reason in the game, which is where Showers popped in on the first 11. So I can only assume that's the reason why he's not in this first 11. But Nacelle, despite not scoring, does make the bench still. I fear he may not be in next year's. And I'm not going to dwell on the overall one for too long. We did see it in the last episode in particular, but that's what it looks like. James Clark, a player that we didn't really talk about too much going through that run. 174 appearances for him over the course he was there. Now at Sunderland, who got promoted with us, actually quite remarkably. They got promoted from League One straight to the Premier League. But James Clark, what a player he was for us. And now he's a Premier League player as well because they've just been promoted. So good on him. But that's our best 11 according to this. Victor Schott, 78 appearances for him. It shows you how bad that left wing position is, though we actually have a striker in the left role. He can do both those positions perfectly, which is why he's in that left-hand side. Kempster, a player that we didn't really talk about too much. He's now retired, sadly, but sensational that first year. Umdenard, and we ended up keeping him. He did well a couple of years afterwards, but it wasn't too long before we were above his level. Dutra hasn't quite taken that first spot off Ted Smith yet. He's only 1 appearance behind, and his average rating is 0.001 ahead. We've done quite well on the goalkeeping front in this particular game. It's probably part of the reason why we've done so well in general, I think. Worth just giving a moment of respect for the goalkeepers, because they do go a little bit unsung throughout these years. I do highlight them every now and then, but they're part of the reason why we've done particularly well. They've stopped shots, they've saved goals, they've kept us in the game, kept us going, promoted, and they definitely deserve the praise that they get now. Romano, still in this best 11, deserved, in my opinion. Edgar and Romano, certainly my best 2 centre-backs. Xiao Nan is on the left-hand side of this. If that's to accommodate James Clark on the right, I'm happy to have that way around. Again, he was brought in as left-back, but had a dominant right foot. We trained him on the other side. We had to trade him to do that right-hand side, which is what he's technically better at in terms of feet. So I'm happy to have him on the left-hand side of this best 11 if it means having James Clark on the right, because, yes, those are the best 2 fullbacks we've had over the course of the season. Wilson, only 88 appearances. Much as I would love that to be Richie Smallwood, who doesn't even make any of this. In terms of performance, yes, that makes sense. Nacelle, though, of course, I dare say it will take a lot to get rid of Nacelle out of this best 11. Or we take slightly less for Ebersbach, who weirdly makes this team as a midfielder. But also, in fairness, no one else has really had the appearances that Nacelle or even Ebersbach have had in that midfield. Those 2 midfield roles have kind of... The midfield role alongside Nacelle has rotated quite often. It's Squires now, it's Velasquez for the last couple of seasons. Velasquez probably will take over that role over time, but for the time being, it's Ebersbach there. Lopez up front, keeps that 173 appearances, 96 goals. A goal every other game, pretty much. What a signing he was. And it's been a while since we've had a sensational striker of our own, because Victor Schott, of course, on loan the last couple of years. Great loan signing he is, but he's not ours. And there's one that we're eyeing on a free at the end of the season, once he makes his mind up, where once he decides he might want to actually come to us, we might get him. We're speaking of players that might want to come to us. Premier League next. Signings to come. I will redo it in the signing episode tomorrow, but I'm just very quickly going to show you that player we've already signed, just as a thank you. I'm going to pronounce this wrong, but Maxence Casseret, or Cacare, physically, alright, mentally, fantastic overall. A lot of 15s, not a lot of very top-end numbers, but a lot of 15s in there, and a few great technicals amongst all of that. Not a set-piece person, not really much of a finisher, but he plays advanced playmaker, which of course is the position that Callum Nacelle plays. And it's a position that we don't really have a Premier League quality player in going forward. Velasquez can do the Mazzala role going forward. He's got Premier League quality, potentially. So he's going to be starting in that Mazzala role. Wilson Gonçalves, fine in the defensive midfield role. We needed a player to take that other position in that midfield going forward, and this is him. Worth noting, we have signed him on less wages than it says on there. So we've done a sensational deal here, in my opinion. I look forward to playing him in the Premier League, our journey in the Premier League, and seeing you guys next time for all the transfer business. Until tomorrow, and we find out who's joined Max Vance. Ta-ra. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Thank you so much.